we on?
Yeah, it's on.
Hi guys, welcome back to the SMS channel. I've done a little diorama here, as you can see, just to try and showcase some of our products. So we've got the LX006, the LX001, got the LX148 with the AX006 in it, the LX035, and at the back the catch pit's the LX144. So if you want to see how I've done it, stay tuned. Right, so the first couple of kits I'm going to start for this diorama that I'm making is the LX001, as you can see on the left, and the LX006, as you can see on the right. So this is the 5-bar gate, so I'm going to quickly knock one of these up. You get 5 in a kit, so it's really good value, this kit. As you can see, the colouring is almost there as it is. It's got that silvered look that timber goes when it's been out in the sticks for a while. I'm probably going to weather it down a little bit, have a play around with some weathering powders, maybe some dry brushing, and same with the 006 kit. It comes on the same sort of cardboard, so you've already got a pretty good base to start with. It looks pretty good as it is, but for the purpose of the video and having a bit of an experiment, I'm going to do some weathering. I was thinking about weathering it before I put it in place. Justin did ask me about this. He said, "Are you going to paint it and weather it before you put it on?" I said, "Yeah, I will do." But actually thinking about it, because the colour is pretty good anyway, I think I'll just put it on the diorama and then try and enhance it and highlight little areas that I feel may need it. If this was white, or it was a piece of plastic, white plastic or black plastic, I'd certainly paint it in a brown or something like that before I put it down on the diorama. So I've cut some posts out now, probably need to do some more. So as per instructions, you stick a post on this side and then on the other side to make the posts look wider than the cross members. Now you do have a choice if you want to drill holes in your baseboard or your diorama or whatever you're doing it on, and then put these longer bits into the baseboard to hold it straight. I prefer to have them cut off, so I can just put it sort of where I want. The only downside to that is you've got to hold it fast until it goes off. So it's up to you how you want to do that, but you can stick these on first and then obviously just cut them down after. Now my choice of glue is this rocket card glue. We do supply this as well. It's an ideal glue for the card. Goes off pretty quickly. If you're using MDF for some of our kits, then I'd recommend this one. It's just got a bit of a stronger bond for the MDF stuff. You can use this on the cart kits as well. I've used it a few times and haven't had any problems with it. So this glue perhaps would do both jobs, but recommended, this is the card glue. So I've got a couple of strips together. That's all I'm going to need for the diorama. So I'm going to now move on to the 5-bar gate, which we looked at earlier, the LX001. So as I was saying, you get 5 gates in this kit. I obviously only need 1 for this diorama. So I'm going to get that together now in exactly the same principle as this. So the next kit I'm going to look at for the diorama is, this is a classic scale model scenery kit. Seems to do really well. We manufacture and sell this week in, week out. Really versatile, good bit of kit. I figured this would be good to showcase a little bit on the diorama. So I'm going to build just a simple strip of this up, which should be enough. 1 strip should be enough for the diorama. So I've glued 1 edge on first as per instructions. I highly recommend you let that edge dry before you attempt to put the second edge on. Can be a little bit fiddly. I tried doing it against a straight edge, but I actually had more success by just doing it freehand, just holding it with hand, started at this end, pinched it for a few minutes, and then slowly worked my way along. So I'm going to let that go off before I do any more, and then I'll be back. So here is my baseboard. It's 240mm by 240mm, and my plan currently, it may change as it develops, is we're going to have a single piece of track up here. I'm going to use some fillers, which I'm going to do in a minute, to create quite a steep embankment that will possibly then come down to a little road or a lane, quiet little lane, put some potholes and bits and bobs in it here, and then we'll put the Alex 006 somewhere around here, with the Alex 001 here, bit more fence, and then going into a field with a tiny embankment, as if the field is just sort of climbing back up to perhaps track level, almost like, so the road is in a little bit of a valley sandwiched between a high field and an embankment with a railway line on. So first of all, I'm going to do then is get some filler on. So I'm going to use some powdered filler. So to create my embankment, I'm going to go with this sculpture plaster from WWS. I'm going to combine it with the fibre malt, which has got a bit of a thicker consistency. So these two together, one to one, works wonders for me. Obviously there is other brands out there. This is the one that I happen to have at home. So this is what I'm going to use. So I'm going to put 50-50 or 1-to-1 together. I'm going to mix it up with some water to get me quite a thick consistency. And then with the spreader card, I'm going to spread it along this step to give me my embankment. So there's lots of different ways that you can do your embankments. I would recommend, if you're doing a bigger embankment, that you probably wouldn't use a whole pot of filler or sculpture mould, but some people do. I tend to use rolled up bits of paper and then maybe some plaster Paris on it, or a modelling sheet that you could use. But for the purpose of this, because it's so small, this is why I've used the filler. So I've mixed it up now, and it's quite thick. It's just a case of loading it on. So the filler's gone off now. I've left this a little bit rougher, as this is going to go into a field. This would have been more of a man-made embankment, hence why they're finished slightly different. Now for my base coat, just using some Hobbycraft ready mix paint. This is just a brown, as you can see. I'll probably use a black as well. Just put a few washes on as a base colour. I've been having a little play off camera, trying to weather this Alex 006, so this card that we use. As you can see, I'm getting a little bit of success with it. So here in the middle is untouched, and then either side of the middle you can see it's got a slightly weathered look. Now what I've done to achieve that is I've put some weathering powders on it, and the weathering powders don't look like they're doing much. They don't look like they're sticking, but however, once you use some matte lacquer over them, it really makes them pop. As you can see, that's just giving it a little bit more of an effect. So we'll go into a bit more detail on how I've achieved that. Once I've got some base coat on this, and possibly got some cork on the top where the track's going to lay. Right, so I have most of my components and parts built now, ready for the diorama. So we've got the Alex 006, we've got the Alex 001, got some spare bits here in case I need them. We've got the piece of track, we've got the AX 006, which is the relay boxes, and then we've got the Alex 035, which is the cable trunking. So we're going to move on to the diorama board itself now. So while the house brick is weighing down the track on the cork, I'm going to drill my pilot holes along here from the fencing. I'm going to weather this in situ. So I'm going to cut the fence down to possibly here, then have the gate, and then with the remaining part of the fence come along here. I have built up another strip if I need some more, and like I was showing you earlier, practicing some weathering on. I think I'm going to concentrate the darker part of the weathering just lower down on the fence and keep the top a little bit cleaner. So this is the next kit that I've been having to play with. I'd like to get this on the diorama. Quite a versatile kit, plenty of choice on there on what size relay platform you want. I've decided to go with this small one on the right, and I'm going to use that alongside the AX 006. So I've already built it up, so I'm going to give it a coat of grey car primer, possibly weather the bottom edge with a little bit of orange weathering powders to replicate a little bit of rust where it's going to be sat in the scenery. And the idea of that is it's going to sit up there along the track. I've also built some AX 006s. I wasn't sure on which size I wanted. I've got this size and I've got the larger one. So I think I'm going to go with the smaller one to fit in this cabinet. So I'm going to paint that up now with some grey primer, get some weathering on it while I'm still waiting for the track to dry, and then I'll concentrate on putting the road surface in. This is just going to be a lane, so I'm planning on putting some weeds in the middle, some weeds up along the fences, almost a bit of a farm track stroke lane. So I'm going to use some building sand and some plain sand mixed together. I'm going to put that down and treat it like ballast once it's in with a 50-50 mix of PVA. We'll just spread it all over. So it's been 24 hours now. The ballast and the road is now dry. I'm going to weather the track next, and then I'll look at doing some scenery and then start adding all the details, and hopefully the diorama will come alive. So I'm going to have another little play at trying to weather this timber a bit more. I have just ran the airbrush along the bottom edge. While it was in the airbrush, I figured I might as well have a go. As you can see, I've put some tracks in where there've been activity of tractor pulling out of here. So I just wanted to have a look at the kits now that I'm putting on. So I've built a lot of them. So just as a rough plan before I do the scenery, I need to cut the legs down on this or drill some holes through the embankment. So Alex 148 is going to sit there. One of the items from the AX006 will sit in there with it. We'll then have the Alex 035, which is the cable trunking, along here with a T-piece, which I've also built, which comes with a kit, going off to the relay box. I've also got some catch fits I've brought home this evening. Figured it'd be nice to get one of these on. Quite a simple kit, just a case of gluing the laser board into the card. I've been studying some pictures, and I've seen a few examples of them being stacked on the edge of an embankment, so I'm going to see if I can try and get one fit in here somewhere. So once the scenery's down, hopefully it can start coming together a little bit. So before we move on to the scenics, I'm just going to give this a drop coat of metallic silver, just to try and give it more of that galvanised look. As you can see, the AX006 relay box is now glued into place. So what I mean by a drop coat is just a mist coat. There we go, it's just give it that metal look. So it's not a full coat, it's just a bit of a mist over the top of the grey primer, and then once that's in situ, we'll cover these parts of construction with some scenics, and then perhaps we'll introduce a little bit of rust on the lower parts of these legs. So I'm going to start laying down some static grass. I'm going to start on this far embankment, and the first grass that I'm going to use is a 2mm muddy from WWS. I'm going to use that as my carpet layer, so to speak, and then I'm going to finish off with a 6mm muddy dead grass from Serious Play. I really like this stuff along with the muddy. I think these work as a good combination, so I want a lot of this grass quite overgrown and quite dead. Probably add some bushes in places, maybe some flowers and bits and bobs. Try and incorporate some weeds going round the relay box as well, but I'm going to get the main grass down first, and then look at putting the relay box in. I may extend some of the ballast a little bit, but a lot of this up here will be dead grass as well. I may use the WWS 4mm dead for that. It's a little bit darker than this stuff, so I could almost treat it as if it's pre-weathered grass that's up near the rails. So I'm using a micro static grass applicator here. You don't have to put the crocodile clip in your baseboard, as long as the clip is near the end of the hopper, you won't have any problems. All it is a negative and positive charge. Everything that comes out of the hopper is attracted to the clip. So there we go, there's my first base layer of grass down. As you can see, where I've stippled the glue and then hoovered it off, it's left some nice bits of patchy grass. If you're wondering what was on the end of the hoover, it's just an old pair of tights. that I've nicked off the missus. I'm not sure she knows about that, but anyhow, really good for catching all your grass. And then obviously you can put it back over your pot. As you turn the hoover off, all the grass drops back out the tights and you're not wasting any material. So I'm going to repeat the process here. I quite like this muddy, so I'm going to put muddy in this field, and then we'll move on to the serious play muddy dead to do the embankment. So as you can see, I'm not letting the glue dry before hoover it. The static grass really bites into that basing glue. I've left a little gap here. Obviously this would be a little bit muddier. Now, if you're feeling brave, you can always, once you've put your static grass down, you can manipulate it a little bit with your fingers just to lose that perfect carpet look. And if you want to put a few more patches in, you can just almost push it to one side to give you an extra dimension in your scenery. So I've loaded the hopper up now with the 6mm dead from Serious Play. As you can see, I've masked up the rails because I'm now going to be using some spray glue, which is part of the layering system. So it enables you to keep putting layers on. You don't have to wait for it to dry. You don't have to reapply the basing glue. So this is in an aerosol can, and it's a case of just spraying it on now where I want it. This field I'm happy with for now. I don't think we're going to put any dead on this part of the field. I quite like that lush green on there, but this embankment is far too lush, so we're going to put the 6mm on there. So as you can see, we've gained a little bit of height now with the 6mm. You can sweep this all to one side if you want to. It's standing up really well on the top. But I imagine with where locos have been coming past, it would be somewhat windswept. So all I'm doing now is just pushing it over the edge, and hopefully that should give the impression of it a little bit windswept from the locos going past. So it's still a little bit uniform as it is. So I'm going to introduce now some turf, particularly like this. I use this a lot on my own layout, the T44, and it's a very fine turf. This works great over static grass. As you can see, it's just adding another dimension, almost just some weeds that are growing in the underbrush underneath the long grass. And as you can see, as the layers build up, the better the results are. So we've started with a 2mm, we've then put a 6mm on, we're now putting some turf over. As you can see here on the camera, it's really starting to pick it up. We can add a few more hedges, we can start adding some flowers and some colouring. It's up to you where you stop with this sort of thing. I quite like how that's going at the minute, so we'll probably move on to some clump foliage, but before I do any of that, I'm going to start putting some details on, or at least dry fitting the trunk in and working out where else I need to put some grass. So I feel that I probably need some more a dead sort of grass up here, something a lot darker. So I'm probably going to go with a patchy for this. Again, this is from WWS. It's quite a dark brown. I think I'm going to run brown all the way along this top edge, then bed the trunk into it. So I've used the detailer for this. This is another WWS product. Really handy for just getting into smaller areas. I'm going to use this again in a minute to put some weeds through the lanes. I still need to lose this edge here, the edge of the MDF. Having said that, it does make it look a bit man-made where the embankment has been built up. So I'm not going to worry about it too much. I'm going to get the trunking in now and then just start blending the trunking in with some weeds overgrowing it. Perhaps we'll break some slabs, which is the classic thing to do with this Alex 035. I may even put some cable inside it. It does come with a printed wrap so you can actually put some black cables in it. I'm going to go a step further and I'm going to actually put some spare dropper wires I've got. I'm going to put a couple of runs of that in there, so where the broken slabs are, you can actually see where the cable is visible. So I've glued the base of the cable trunking down now. I've put my T-piece in, ready to go to the relay box. Before I do any of that, I've got the slabs to go on top. I've cut some gaps in it, so depending on where these gaps are cut now is where I'm going to expose a little bit of cable. I've just added a little bit more layering spray to it. I'm just going to add a couple of colours into it, some purples, just to create some weeds and just give it a bit more interest on the eye. Not going to overdo it. Just a couple of specks in places. If you ever put too much of the colour on, you can always then just go over the top again with your original green. And if you're careful, it just adds another dimension. It's about building the layers up of your scenery. So we've gone from the 2mm, then we've done the 6, we've done the turf, we've put some fine turf on, then we've put some clump foliage that I've broken up a little bit just to bury the base of the cable trunk in, then add in a little bit of the purple of the flowers. Just gives you that thick underbrush that you can't get with just one layer. So I'm quite pleased with that so far. This field is looking pretty good as it is, because this is a clean field. This is a messy embankment. But what I need to do next now is to get a couple of weeds in between the tracks that I've airbrushed on. I want this as a quiet lane where it's not got a lot of traffic, perhaps the odd agricultural vehicle, a couple of Land Rovers. That's the sort of idea. So I definitely need to put some tufts in places. So it's been another 24 hours. I've let everything dry. I've moved some of this longer grass around just to break it up and make it look a little bit patchier. I've got my catch pits made. I've just painted them with a blue. I had intended on putting them along here, but I'm not sure if that's prototypical or not. It may be that I have to have just one at the back here, as if it's in the centre of two main lines, although I did quite like the idea of it here. And then we've got the relay box that I can now glue in place. And once the glue has gone off, I'm going to weather the legs on it and introduce just a little bit of corrosion, a little bit of rust at the bottom of these legs. So what I've done is I've just cut away some of the grass, so I've got a solid bed for the relay box to go on, and because there's a little wall of grass behind it, it just helps bed it in a little bit better. I'm going to put some glue on that and let that go off. So I'm really not sure about this catch pit here, which is where I would have liked it. So just to know that I'm going to be right, I've seen plenty that are flush in between the rails. So I'm going to fix this one here at the back. I'm going to cut away a bit more of the ballast. I'm going to fix that in there. So I'm just going to have a go. I'm doing a little bit of weathering on this fencing. I've already airbrushed the bottom half. I'm just going to see if I can put some powders, get them to bite to these uprights, and then with a matte lacquer I'm going to seal it in. So I'm calling that complete now. I've added some bushes on the embankment, a little bit of bale twine round the gate on the post. Job done.